Hello Tech Genius, I am Ravi. Have you ever imagined a place where learning is as dynamic as the technology shaping your world? Then here's a deal. With iMatix, you can make sure the learning is exciting, impactful right from the beginning. You have interactive sessions with expert-led courses. In the world of tech, from data science to cloud computing, it's not just about a session, it's about doing, building, learning by solving real problems. So let's get started. We are in our discussion with provisioning yesterday, right? Let's give a brief about what is provisioning. Basically in Saviynt, right? Whether it is Saviynt or Cellpoint, irrespective of any tool, if you wanted to cover up your lifecycle management, right? If you consider this is like a whole lifecycle management of user is getting onboarded to the company, right? On the day one, and the user performs the activity, or he is going to join some of the project, right? And the user is getting promoted in some time. And in the day outright, the user is leaving the company. This is all about life cycle of a user, right? To cover up everything, right? The user is getting onboarded to the company, or user is leaving to the company, right? And user is getting promoted, right? Means the user is getting some updation. When he called about promoted the user, job code description or job code, right? The job code, it is getting changed to a new value. Let's say for the job as an engineer, it is out of 30, and for a manager is out of 50. The job will be changed for the user, right? Again, it is called as an update, right? It's inserting a new record, like creating the user account and updating the user and disabling, deleting the user. All this terminology, right? It is covered under your provisioning activity. Provision, or we call it as a what happened. The provision. This is called provision or deprovision. This provision and deprovision and updating the user, everything it is coming under your one job, that is a Z-tree. Z-tree job is responsible to process all your tasks. What this Z-tree job it is getting right. This job in backend code, they have written the code actually to do the functionality. If you open the Z-tree job, right, go to the job control panel and go to the utility. In the utility, if you scroll down right, click on this Z-tree, right, and click on start. You see a lot of options. Fast type if you want to process a new account, right? Whenever a fresh account, it is getting onboarded, right? When the user is getting onboarded back, then it will be called as a new account. For a new account in backend, there will be different code written. This is already hosted, right? You are seeing this as Z-tree job in backend, that is a number of code which is executing. Different method we have for a new account creation. We have a different code, right? That is written and similar to for removing account and update user. Update account, right? Disabling account, create entitlement, update entitlement. I'll come to the entitlement part later. Just focus now on the account part. Now only updating and update user. These are the sum of the information, or these are the sum of the methods available under your user tree job. This user tree job, it is responsible for processing your task. How the task is generating, we talk about, right? Let's say I have my HMS system here. Which is nothing but your database. What is your database name here? PC. Underscore app inside that we have import underscore user table. Here the HR, onboarding the user. We have many user here. Let's say one of the user is ABC. This user is coming to your save and grow your user import, right? Or we call it as a trusted reconciliation. Through the trusted reconciliation, through this trusted reconciliation, this ABC user is coming to your Saviynt. From here, if I want to create the user account in a managed application or like a target application, let's say the target application database, let's say something, XYZ database, right? If I wanted to create a target, or if I want to create this A, B, C user in this target application, right, XYZ. Again, another picture will come to this thing like a connector, right? This piece of connector, we have to provide information, right? In which target application I am trying to create the account, and all this target application details like your target application login credential, which involve your username, password, your URL, what is the URL of this application and what type of drive it uses. This information, along with that this ABC user metadata, that is the first name, your last name, your email ID and status, all this information you're passing. Once you pass this information, right, your connector is built up. Your connector is ready, and this user is also ready, and we need to give access to this particular application. How we are going to give access, right? The process is we have to create a doubles retry job. Doubles retry job is there, right? Now we have to create an instance of this job. Let's say I'll create a new job. I'll say like deprovisioning. I can do this, or directly I can run the job without scheduling it. If you're creating a job inside that means you're scheduling your job time to time. Automatically this job will run and it will face whoever user is coming in. Now we are just simple directly running this doubles retry job. If you go this doubles retry job and choose provisioning type equal to new account, that means I'm trying to process a new account of this ABC user, that the ABC user will get created here. Once I run this job, right, this new account type, right, I have to mention like what type of job I'm running. What is the connection name? This connection will have a name here, right? Let's say DB provisioning. I'm giving the name. I have to mention boss go and pick the DB provisioning. DB provision will need to try to process it, right? It will see when I submitted a request, there will be a pass generated for this user, right? The task name C, let's say 1, 2, 3. How this task is going to generate it, right? This ABC application, right? This XYZ application, when this ABC user will try to request for this XYZ application, right? Real time how it happened. User need to submit a request to get any application. That is one thing. And I told you another scenario where this ABC user automatically will get to access like Outlook application, right? Like time series, that is a different scenario, but some application will be there that you have to place a request to access that application. When this ABC user will submit a request to access this XYZ application, instantly one request ID will be generated. This request ID, once it is generated, right, it will have a number, let's say 1, 2, 3. These number will be processed by this Bezu retrieval job. Once this WS retrieve pick this 1, 2, 3 user, and it will process it, and the account will get created in XYZ application. That is the thing. Like, these are the topics that we discussed yesterday. This is the connection, right? We created along with the connection, right? I told you had to pass the information, right? Like login credential, URL, and your driver details. And with that also, I told you are going to provide first name, last name, email, ID, and this metadata. Right. Actually, these are divided into two parts, actually, right? All this metadata, what you're passing, right, and all this connection information. It is like your Saviynt is individual entity, right? And the Saviynt application, under that you have a part, your local connector. This connector, you are passing all this information. These Saviynt data and this connector information, right? And this connector is telling actually where you are going to create the user. These two things, actually it is clubbed together. And we are going to place this value, this connector, and this user information, all this thing inside a placeholder. That placeholder, it is called as a security system. If you talk about like security system, why again it is needed, right? This security system, basically it will help you to identify your different connector. That means today the Saviynt, it is integrating this XYZ application, right? Tomorrow you might have to integrate another app application. Let's say this is like ABC and the application is a ServiceNow application, right? This ServiceNow application, when you are integrating with your Saviynt, you must have a name here, right, to identify. If I tomorrow go in the Saviynt and see how many applications already I have integrated, right, you'd go and check the security system here. It will be showing you first, I have two applications. One application, it is named XYZ. Like it will be showing you the connection like DB type, and another application will be seen that is ABC, and it is a ServiceNow application. Your main point of contact, it will be your security system. Security system is nothing but a placeholder. Likewise, if you take a real life example, right? In your real life example, where do we stay, right? Where do we stay? We call it as a home, right? And this home is just a placeholder for us. it is giving us different room, to store data. Like we can stay and we can, put furniture and we can make it as a storeroom, everything. That is how, the same way your security system is also a placeholder. What it is doing? It is containing two things. One is basically it is clubbed together like your connection and your endpoint. If you remember in a previous step I told, like in connector information, right? We are passing all the target application information. If this is our X-ray digital application, I'm passing here URL, your credential details, your metadata information and what operation you are trying to perform. All those data, right? These are getting clubbed together with your, security system. This security system, it is a bundle of or a container that is containing all this information here in the connection and your endpoint. Basically, it is like, for security system will come to picture. Inside that you will have your endpoint and inside that you will have your connection. Endpoint, it is nothing but again, like, it is just mentioning what, actual information. I'm holding it here. What information? That means all the account whatever I created here, right? From Saviynt. If this is your Saviynt and you are trying to create user from Saviynt to your XYZ application, right? This user will be stored inside your endpoint. Let me elaborate it more actually because this is a little complex thing. This is your Saviynt, right? And this is your MS. If this is your Saviynt and this is your HAMS application, or we are resembling your DB application. This DB application, right? Let's say it has now 3 users. One is ABC, another is XE user and PQR, it has 3 users. These 3 users, when we do the recon, right? What does it recon? It was like trusted recon. These through a trusted recon this user. It got onboarded to your Saviynt, right? Once I mean onboarded into the C, you would have seen these 3 users. First, it is getting stored inside your Saviynt database, right? That means if you onboarded any user into Saviynt, Saviynt has these 3 users. That means in your backend there is a table called users. It is first storing this user information in this table. All these 3 users, it will store it here. All these 3 users, first it is getting stored here and Saviynt has this data. Then after that, when Saviynt is trying to integrate any new application, let's say we integrate this new application, right? Let's say this application is again, it is a database DB application. And this is your target application like Outlook application. We are just resembling this application where it is trying to integrate. Connector came into the picture, right? Where we pass all this target details information here, like your URL, username, password, metadata, and all this information. Once you pass this information, right, our connection is prepared. Connection is prepared. This connection, it is getting held by your endpoint, right? It's just wrapping. It is telling boss this connection, it belongs to me. That is what is my endpoint name. My endpoint name is DB application. Once this is built up, like it is there, right? This endpoint again, it is wrapped under your security system. Why this security system coming into picture, right? We might have like one security system can hold many endpoints. Basically, in the security system, whenever I am mentioning like boss, go and hold this connection like this DB for different purpose, right? We can have many DB application. We can put it into under endpoint. This DB application, like if it has a purpose, right? I want to manage this application. Let's say this DB has two departments. One is your like HR department you have, right? Another, we have like a managerial department. This each individual department I can also store in a different endpoint, like one endpoint, another endpoint. That will come to this picture later. Just now understand we have a security system. Under the security system, we have endpoint, and this endpoint, it is capturing your connection. Who has the actual connection information data? What is this URL? What is your username and password? That is for the credential, and what metadata like. It required to provision user like your first name, last name. All this field value it has, right? These field value, right? It is captured in your connection, and this connection it is held by your endpoint first. An endpoint it is holding by your security system. How it happen? Like whenever I am trying to integrate, or like this application is integrated. When I'll try to first provision this ABC user, I want to give access to this DB application. What it will do, I have to submit the request for this ABC user. Once I submit the request for this user, I will say I want to access this DB application. The system will say you raise a request, right? Once you submit the request as usual, right? The request might be, if it is not a critical application, you can directly request this application. And you will get a request ID, some number will get, right? This is for the tracking purpose. If it is a critical application, let's say this DB, you cannot directly request. If you want to perform a request, right, it has two phases, right? First, it will go to approval of this ABC application manager. If this ABC user will have a manager. Before that, this request will go to manager. Manager will review and see whether this person really required to this DB application or not. Because this manager is right, his report is ABC user. Once he submit the request for this application in the real time, what happened? First, manager will review your request and he will see whether you are eligible or you really need the access or not. Once managers say you need the application or you need this access again, this request right, it will go to this DB owner application. This DB application, it has another owner. This DB owner will see right, this guy is requesting for my application and his manager has already approved. Let me approve that. After that, only your request ID some number will generate for you. Once you have this request ID, it will get right picked by your WSLI retry job. This WSLI retry job you have to mention right. I need access for this DB application. You heard of explicit prementum I mentioned. I need the access to DB application and I need to provision the account which is created. That is new account. Once you provision this to new account right, this new account will pick this task and it will process for you. That means once you process the record, this ABC user, it is getting onboarded to this application. And ABC user will have an account here called ABC or capital whatever ABC. This account will get created here. In the same time, the account ABC, the ABC account, it is getting created in DB. Also save and store this ABC information in a separate table that is called accounts. Right? It has a separate tables. It keep a copy record also in his own database that it can identify if I have given access to this ABC application and where I have given the access. Each time it cannot directly reach here, right? That is a time consuming. Let's say tomorrow. ABC user will say I do not have access to this DB application. We will say let me check if you have access or not, that it will go and see his own database like account database, right? Inside account database it will see if you have the access to the DB application or not, and it will say you have access. It will say no, you have access, or I don't provide it again. That is how this whole system works, right? Any question here? This is an issue. No much. You understand, right? How this WS riser work and what is the use of security system and this endpoint. It is clubbed together basically. VOS riser, it is performing the job and it is trying to process the connection. Let's jump into the practical scenario and see how it works. As I told, right, we have an involvement of a security system. Log into your savings. Once you log in, right, you have to prepare a security system before going back, that right? Let's prepare our database first, where we are going to create the user, right? Then we'll come back to Saviynt. This is like we can create a new table here right in under the JDB staff, which will store our provisioning information. Let's create a table. Write and give a name. Everything small. db_account. This is the table name and what column we require. Remember, for provisioning, right, we require some of the mandatory column. Let's look into that. What kind of column we required, or the new value it is required. If you see here in this document, just search for create account. You see create account parameter, right? To create a new account in a say, specify the value of the create account JSON parameter. Again, will be placed inside your connector or connection, right? It is giving example to create an account using insert statement used similar to the following. Either you have it two ways, but now this second way it is not encouraged because it required database access back and access in the real time. Stored procedure, it is already gone. Nobody is using that. Just focus for the first point, that is using SQL query, how you can do that. Here we are performing the db create account JSON. If you see, this is just a message that I am creating an account query. And what actually information it is doing insert into users. In our case, what will be insert into this db_account. ID is a mandatory column, right? Display name, email, employee ID, first name, last name, system name, username and password, right? And what value it is capturing, right? It is getting the user id, user display name, user email, user employee ID, user course name, user username, user system username and user.username. Just have a look here. When we are provisioning this A, B, C user, right? B, C user, right? You got the information from this target application. Let's say your XYZ information. Right. This database information, it has been already given to you by your application. Your application team told, right, boss, this is our application and this is our URL, right? And this is our credential and all this database information. But what value you are going to pass, those also they will tell, right? The application team said I need the first name of the user, last name of the user, and email ID of the user. These some of the attribute I need when Saviynt sending this ABC user or this ABC user is getting created. Saviynt, all this ABC user details will be passed to here. This ABC user has information like first name, last name and email also it has. Right. We have to map this first name with this first name and this last name with this last name. I told you, right, when from HRMS the user are getting onboarded to Saviynt through a user import or a trusted reconciliation. The user is getting created here, but in backend it is storing under user table. Right. Because the Saviynt is also a tool and it required a database. That's why it is storing this information in your user table first. When it stores this information in user table for this A, B, C user, it has value like it is first name, last name and email ID, all are stored in under your user table. The table name is user. Now I am passing this first name, last name, email ID. to the target first name, to the target table last name, and to the target table email ID. I have to explicitly mention from which table I am getting the data. For each and every table there is a user object. For user table, the object name is user. Here I will say user.firstname. That means the system will understand the first name it is coming from your user table. Like that, I have to mention user.lastname. That means I am getting the last name of this ABC user from the user table. Right? If you see back right, this import user, we had record like this user record, we inserted, and after doing trusted reconciliation, the user are created inside your Saviynt. Right? If I copy this ID I pass to the username attribute of your Saviynt. Let me copy this ID. And this is your Saviynt database. If I search in the Saviynt database, save user first name, Saviynt users. Username equal to this where. If I give this right, see, it gave me the record right. That means when I onboarded the user from the ZDBC application to our Saviynt database or to our, in the Saviynt, keep a copy in your user table. The table name is this is either table where all your user information is getting stored. But now we are sending this ABC user or this, username value. We are trying to provision to a different target application, that is, XYZ application. It will face the value from like, user.username, user.firstname. Like how it is mentioned here, right? What value we are passing user.employee, user.firstname, and user.lastname. This is how, SQL work. First you have to mention what will column you are passing. Like I need 1, 2, 3, 4 column. What is their value? In the values column, we are mentioning where it should get the value. Simple. Copy and go back to a document DB connector. Right. Mention here. Create account JSON. These are the information we are trying to pass. In the create account JSON, create account query. What should I pass? ID, right? This ID is a primary column. If you see for all this table, right? By default, whether it is your MySQL or SQL, any database, for each and every table, there will be a primary key. Without primary key, you cannot create a table. If you look back, we created some of the table here, right? Demo 15. If you go back here, there is a primary key. Let's see. And this is primary key. Without a primary key, you cannot create a table. And this primary key you have to pass anyhow. It is mandatory. That is how, right? It works. We are just in the process of creating our table right for our provisioning purpose. The column name is in db_account right. What else column we are passing here? Display name, employee, first name, last name system, and it is getting value from your user table, that is user ID. Let's create this ID table first. ID com, and it got automatically primary key what I assigned, and another column we are giving. I think display name we are not passing, it is blank. Let's delete this, it's not required. Email we are always passing, keep this email. Email might be bigger, that just gives some more character to it. After email, employee, let's not pass it, let's give only first name, and again mention like it is, 250 character. After first name, let's take the last name, last name we are passing here. After last name, the system username, they have passed system name. I am just submitting it right. I don't need the system name, but I need the username. The username attribute we can pass it, and this is, I will give 255, and password attribute right. We are not passing it, leave it. How many attribute we are passing? ID, email, first name, last name, username. This ID where it is coming, user it, this is a mandatory column. Always keep it like that, user it. And for email, what email attribute will get? We'll get the email attribute from your user's table email ID. That is for this ABC user, it should be user. And first name, it should be first name. And last name, user dot last name. User dot last name. And we have the final attribute user dot username. Delete this attribute, we don't require it. User dot username. This is also unrequired. Delete this. User it, user mail, user. First name and user last name, these are attribute, we are passing it. Copy this username. We have not seen user table name right. What was the table name? Before that, let's save our table. Table name is db_account. Apply. This is like a blank column. There is no record in it. We have right. Insert into db_account. This JSON. From here to here. Go to Identity repository and click on the connection. In the connection, you can utilize an older connection that we created yesterday for our provisioning purpose. Sorry, for our import purpose, right? Or you can use a new connector also. Let's leverage this connector only. Go to back here, and here in user input section, we are mentioning the things like, if you want to do an import of user right, that is user input. In the same way, we have a create account JSON section. Right. Create account JSON. Ideally, if you look back, in the URL I'm mentioning, it should look into this connection. URL, what is the database name? BC app, right? Under JDBC app, we have this import user table where we are bringing the user to save it. And the same way, into DB_account, we are sending the user input. DB_account is our target database now. Sorry, the target table under JDBC app. If you have a different database, that when you have to go for a separate connection, in the same connection, you cannot go right because JDBC app you are consuming for both your provisioning purpose, that is DB_account, and import user. For your importing a user or prosthetic conciliation, after you go back here, in the create account JSON, right, we passed it right. We will insert into DB_accounted email first time, last name. We have 5 columns and we are sending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 value. If you see here in the values, right, we are passing user dotted with a dollar symbol. And why this is dollar? Dollar means when the code will run that time, it will try to face the value dynamically, because this is not a constant value, right? If you have known right in the language, or in the corporate system, if you want to refer to a variable which will get the data at the runtime, that's why you have to mention like dollar, because we are getting the data while runtime, because this value will be different for each user, right? If your name is in Tejasini, your email it will be different, and for Solti it will be different. Now for me it will be different, right? That's why we always refer the dynamic value, that at the runtime it will check what is the username. If the username is like 00123 that belongs to Tejasini, it will face the email of Tejasini. That is how it works. That is why we are giving $sign, right? Always remember in Saviynt, if you want to refer any dynamic attribute or dynamic value, always you have to give a $sign. And this is must, this is compulsory. Now come back again to your create account JSON, and you can see it has also given some of the sample JSON how you can prepare. Look at this. Insert into user says give a username column and $user.username. Now scroll down and save and test connection. Connection is successful. Close it. Now connection is ready for provisioning, right? Along with this connection, for provisioning we required a security system. Click on the security system. The security system. Again, it is under admin and identity deposited in security system. Click here. Click on action, create a security system. I will give a name. What is the name here? Same number as give it connection name. Security system database training here. Give the display name. And here you see provisioning connection, right? For provisioning, you have to mention the connection. What is the connection name? Connection is database training here. This connection information we are passing inside our security system. And scroll down, you see there is two options: access add workflow and access remove workflow. If you remember, I was talking if the application is a critical application and it will go for approval. First, it should go for a manager approval, and second, it should go for that critical application owner approval. That work approval thing will be configured under a workflow. We will also see how we can configure workflow. But if you want to provision any of the application by default, you require a workflow. Without a workflow, you cannot submit a request. I am just giving an approval workflow that is auto approve. That means automatically it will approve. It doesn't require any manager approval. For sure, you require approval workflow. If you want to give access to this X, it will get processed by everything. You have to mention auto approval workflow. Workflow is mandatory. Without workflow, Saviynt doesn't allow to submit any request. After you do that, access workflow auto approve and access remove workflow auto approve. After that, come down. This is automated provisioning. Mention is automated provisioning. If I do not mark it as automated provisioning, what will happen? I'll come to that part. I'll come in a minute. Let me process this thing and I'll come to what is automated provisioning. And simple. Click on create. Your security system is created now. This security system need an endpoint, right? Again, if you go back, you find this is blank. Again, come back to security system. Click here. Open the security system which we created now. This one. You see here workflow is auto approval. Status is enabled. And it is ready to consume. Provisioning connection you have here. Now in security system below to that you see endpoint. Click here. Once you click here, go to action, create a endpoint. In the endpoint, mention the endpoint name. It is always advisable. It should give a unique name. Right. We have given the same database training CF name to our security system, as well as we'll give the same name to our endpoint. Mention here. This is the endpoint name. And it has a display name. Display name can be different also, right? But I'm giving the same name that you know easily, you can understand. And here you have to choose your security system. What is your security system? We gave it as a database training CF. Type database training CF. Once you do this, scroll down and simple. Click on create. I'm just giving you account name rule. I'll explain you what is account name, why it is required. Basically, what is the meaning of this? What happened? It got hang of water. This account name rule. That means when I'm trying to provision this XYZ user, to target application, right? Target database, right? I'm sending a lot of information here for the user. I'm sending ID. I'm sending username. I'm sending first name. I'm sending last name. I'm sending email ID. Just imagine, right, whenever you are sending any courier, right? Let's say you order something from Amazon. While ordering, right, it is asking a number of information, right? But finally, it is asking you a unique value, that is, what is your name and what is your mobile number, right? Your address might be, it is pointing to different people. Let's say you are giving your in a colony number, or that you're wherever you stay and your city and street and address, lot of information you give. Even in your colony, lot of other people are staying. Even your home address also, number of other people are staying, right? But what is your unique value when you're sending your mobile number and your name? These are the two attributes you are, giving while doing the order, and that is like a unique value for you. In the same way, when you are sending all this information to the target application, this target database where we are trying to create our user, it will always ask you what is your unique attribute. What unique attribute you are trying to send, that I also should know in the, which attribute I should refer you, because tomorrow when I search, I will say, this user is created in my target database. Based on what attribute I should search you, right? That is why the unique attribute is required, and that unique attribute you have to pass under account name. It is not working here. Account name rule, right? We saw the account name rule and this account name rule. I'm telling boss this username. It is my unique attribute. For each user, this username will be unique attribute, and based on this unique attribute, you should insert here. You should create a user here. That is why we call it as an account number. Once we give the account name rule here, right? I have added that where you are in the endpoint, I have given an account number. And after that, right, we are ready to submit the request. This is the application name, endpoint name, database, training CF. This is ready. Now we should submit a request for this application database, training CF. This database training CF, this is the endpoint. And what is the security system associated to that? If you go back, security system, and the security system itself name is database training CF. If you open it, this endpoint, now go back to endpoint. And now you see this endpoint has an attachment, right? This database training CF. This endpoint belongs to this security system that is named database training CF. And what is the provisioning connection it holds? Database training CF. If you go back to a database training CF, this database training CF connection is telling my users should create it under this database, that is JDBC_app. And where this JDBC app is staying, it is staying under this IP address and under this port number. The database name is JDBC app. It will come to JDBC app again. Inside the JDBC app, we have a number of table, right? User table, time table, import user. Import user time of the DB account where it should provision the user. Then it will come down and it will see what is my create account JSON. And it is telling I should insert into DB_account. Then it will come to your DB_account table. And inside DB_account, it is telling I need to insert this attribute. ID, email, first name, last name, username, right? It will check whether this attribute is present or not. It will go and it will check, yes, ID, email, first name, last name, right? These are the attribute, it's already present. After that, if you see, this valid column is there. It will try to put this value user it. What is the user? You are requesting. This user ID, user email, first name, last name, this value, it will try to insert it. Now let's go back. Can you explain again the endpoint, why actually we need to go out of here? Information. As we have already security system, why again endpoint is needed? That's a good question. If we have the security system, why we need again endpoint, right? I'll clear it out in a minute. I don't know why this box is too slow now for me. If you look back, right? Let me show you, go to an older security system. Let's say this, Active Data application, right? Active Directory. Open this Active Directory. This is your security system, right? All this workflow, everything we have mentioned, if you go to the end point, right? Open this endpoint. You see number of endpoint are mentioned here, right? Active Directory ID, renew, edit, test, my app sample list, right? That is what I was trying to explain. A security system can have different endpoint and one endpoint. It will capture the value of a group of information. If I go to through directory, click on there and go to account, you see the actual user are storing information here, right? You see all this user information is stored here. It means security system doesn't store any data. The data will be stored inside your endpoint only. But how about the endpoint? Endpoint is alone. If you recall the scenario, if this is my endpoint, right? This is my endpoint, and this endpoint is actually holding the data, but it doesn't have our connection information, right? where it will get the connection information. Connection is a separate thing. We have put it up here, providing your URL credential, all the detail that is getting connected to your target application IXZ, the target application or the DB application. But this DB application, it is communicating through the connection. Connection is a separate entity, right? This connection separate entity, how it will get communicate to your endpoint that boss, I need to store your data in endpoint, right? That is why in between your security system is coming. I told security system is just a placeholder. It will just hold your endpoint and connection information, and it will make a link between these two entities. It will fill the gap only, right? Like a river this side and this side, your bridge is connecting this gap to pass the information from one side to another side. That bridge or the flyover information or flyover work your security system is doing here. Again, go back and have a look. This is your actually endpoint, right? I go back to security system in security system, right? If I open the Active Directory, it's just holding the connection information, provisioning connection in Active Directory, nothing else. It is holding your workflow. That is what workflow I should use, but actual data it is holding under your endpoint. If you go back endpoint and click on account, all these accounts are provisioned to Active Directory. It is stored under your endpoint only, but endpoint, if you want to store the data first, it should communicate. It should get the connection information, provisioning connection, this AD, and this provisioning connection that is residing under this Active Directory security system. Now is it clear for you, Sutia Tejasini? We are just in a one step away, right? We have everything ready. What is? Our connection is ready. We created the connection databases CF connection. We created a security system with the name, same name and the security system, right? It is holding this connection, and security system also has an endpoint where our data will be stored or our account will be stored. Now let's request for this application. How we can request? Simple thumb rule. Open a new tab or the duplicate tab. Click on this IaaS menu. Again, I'm an admin user. I'm not requesting myself. I'm requesting for any other user, right? Click on request access for others here. Request access for other, click here. Pick any user to whom you want to give access to this particular application data, right? Let's say before that, right? You see you are passing first name, last name, username and email ID, right? Let's see. This user has a first name, last name, every information center is there, right? Now if you scroll down and pick active user, let's say I'll pick this user and click next. This link request access for more. In whatever his name comes something, and it is listing all the application. Now we should search our application. What is our application name? Database training, see it. See, it is listed under here. If you go back to your connection, sorry, your security system, right? Open the security system. I told you I have access at work, right? If I make it as a no workflow, right? And update it. Now come back again. What is this here, right? We are requesting this application. Now simple refresh it to this URL. See, your application is not listed here. You cannot find database application. It is not there because you didn't add a workflow, right? You have to actually start the auto approval workflow also, but should be there auto approve, and this is for remove. Simple update it. Now again go back to here. Refresh it this URL and your application. It didn't came. Should be, it came right. We didn't. I updated properly. Oh, it's not there. Somewhere else I added. It's a round map. It should be access word workflow here. It should be auto approve and auto approve. This workflow also will configure. No worries on that. We'll see how we can configure the workflow. Now it is updated, right? Come back again. Refresh it. Once you refresh the I'll scroll down. You see your application. Click this Add to Cart button. Now it is there. Like a shopping experience, right? If you go how much and how you pick your order, you simply do Add to Cart right same way we have to do it here and click on Checkout. That means you are purchasing this. And see lift access. We do not have access here. We'll talk tomorrow about access. What is access and how it is needed. All this thing we'll talk. Now click on Net and write some comment, right? Required for business purpose. Something you can submit it. Now you see I said right. Once you submit request, you will get a request number. It is your request number. Copy this request ID. And this is your username. And here action you see, click this viewed status. Now what it is giving request access for this person. And what is the Noor account request? I'm requesting for this. And what is the endpoint name database training CA? And it is requested by me. That is, I am the admin. Now if you come back, right, this is the business justification. What I get, scroll down, you see it is giving auto approved task. What does the task name new account request? It was for training CA. Request type access for request access. I did it. What are the date when it was submitted and what does the approved it? Why it is approved? Because I said I need an auto approved. It shouldn't go to my manager because this is not a critical application. Once it is approved, this request ID, it will generate a task. Click on the task. The task ID is now auto generated, that is 9 to 1. And what is the pass type? It is a new account. And to whom? See, the status is new and it is raised for this user. What is the security system name? This is a security system is showing and this is the endpoint it is showing. Now we have to process this request. Once you process this request, the user will get an account in the DB account database. Minimize, that is two way you can pass this request ID. I'll now simple what you can do. Go back to again, right? When you open a new tab, click on the leakage. How to pick it doesn't work or is simple. You can click this admin plus control button. What happened? It's not coming up. Let me simple click on this admin window. It is coming. We raise a request for this user, right? How you can get the request back? We lost it, right? Now again go to this areas. Once the request was raised, I believe it was auto approved and it is generated a task. The task was something 9 to 1. How you can view it? Simple. Go to again request history. This request history. Click it. See this request ID you can see in the top. It is showing and the request is completed, but it has generated task. How you can view the task? Either you can click here and get the task ID or click on the task. Go to pending task. Because the task is not completed yet, that is why it is coming on a pending task. What was our application for database training? There is only one request and this is the request. We have to process the request. Now what you can do, go to simple admin menu. Here in the left you have a job control panel. Click it and click the top menu, that is utility, and scroll down. You have provisioning job S, it rides up. Click on or simple. Click here. You have already a job created, right? You can utilize this stuff, or if you want, you can add a new job, not an issue. Simple click on action. Start here. It will ask you what application you want to process. In our case, it is database CF write database training, see it. And what is again, go down, click on less option, sort of more option. Task type. It was a new account, right? We're provisioning a new account and click on submit. The job is running now, right? In the meantime, let me open the application log also side by side. Keep it ready. Let the job finish. Then I can, grab the log and see what is happening here. The job is processed. This as it rides up. It is done. Let me go to the application log and grab the log. The log is here. Keep it inside and let's see whether our task is processed or not. Go to this some other menu, click on the RS again, go to pending task and click on pending task. You see still the user is still here, right? It doesn't process certainly. We got an error, right? You scroll right and see what is the error it is saying. Just click this button. Error while creating account, incident due to DB account. See, this couldn't column count doesn't match value. Count at row 1. It is asking we are passing too many column value, but it is expecting only ID, email, first name 3, 4, 5, but our value it has more. That is why it is failed. Let's see how many column actually we are passing. Are we passing more column? It is telling we are passing ID, email, first name, last name, username, right? 5 column actually real. We have in the database ID, email, first name, last name, username. ID, first name. Oh, we have more actually. Let's me drag little down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have right first name, last name, email, username and ID. First name, last name, email, username, ID, right. We pass one attribute, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have. That is why it is throwing error. We got some repeated attribute. Delete this attribute. This attribute, it is under single quote. From here to here. Delete this attribute, or let me come back here in our thing where we prepared this right. This first name, it is repeated attribute. Delete this attribute. See, last time is also replicated. One, two, three, four, 5. We have. Again copy this attribute. Come back to your create a congestion, delete it, paste it and save that connection. Now let's again run the job. Come back here. The task is right. Now come back to again, it will process the task. Click the double set a rise up. Action start here. Choose database training, see if more option, if new account. See the number of parallel process. I'll come to this point. Actually, it is no of use now, but I'll let you know. Click on submit. Now the job is running. Let's wait for the job to be finished. Let me grab the log and go back to painting. That's again. And refresh it, click here. The column is gone now from here. It was impending task. If you go to complete task right, click on this create date. To sort it in ascending order, this is 29. Again click here. You see this database training. See if this is the user and what is the status here. Complete. Now it is completed. If you come back, right, go to your security system, right. We created the security system, right. The refresh of security system. Our security system name was database training, right. Open this database training here. Go to endpoint. Now click the endpoint. You see a lot of tabs, simple. Go to the account. You see one account is clicker under it, right? This user belongs to this. Now if you go back to a database and simple phaser the record, you see it now got a record, this user. This was the user 1. 3 for this user to place request. Another way you can search it, go to your admin. Now click here in the identity repository. Go to the user, right? And this was the user for whom we use a request account. Click hit on it. And open this user, click on this username. These are the information it belongs to, only for this particular user only, right? What is this user have? These are the user, all this data information. If you go back to account tab, click on account. It had earlier some account. Now you see it has a database training shape account. And it is link created as for request this. That means this is a request based application. We request for this application. And the status is manually provisioned. We'll also see what is manual provision. One is what is active, what is suspended for import service. That also I'll let you know. Now we are done with the provisioning. We saw how the provisioning is happening. Any question here or if you have any doubt, let me know. There's a sentence with the no questions. This was the existing right. Also, I forgot the name. No, actually I couldn't hear. We are done with we created the account in the target application. Our provisioning is done. Your import user input. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel.